Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Dcroft back here, and we are currently on week 7 of the Madden series. And this upcoming week, we do have another primetime matchup, three straight primetime matchups for us. Obviously, playing the Rams on Thursday night. Then we had the Steelers on Sunday night. I really thought that we were going to come away with a win that past weekend, but bit unfortunate in terms of how the game ended. TJ Watt, I actually think, just really took over time, and he just made some really great plays. The defense was able to get it back into us. The offense really started to get rolling in the second half, but at the end of the day, TJ Watt just made two great plays in overtime, really, to kill any chances we had of winning that game. But for this upcoming week, we do have the Saints. Now, the Saints are in a bit of a transition period right now. They had Drew Brees for so long, and now they're obviously having Jameis Winston now at the helm. So it looks a lot different in terms of how their offense is run and everything. And the last time we actually played the Saints on prime time, I really think is probably one of just the best performances I have ever seen from the Seahawks. I think it was back in 2013, our Super Bowl winning year, where we just blew them out. I think it was 34-7 by the end of the game. And I think in terms of like just great moments in terms of the Seahawks, that's definitely really high up on there because that's what really made us look like a Super Bowl contender that year. But with that being said, I do have a special guest on today. It is one of my close friends. His name is Kdillon. He also goes by Keith. Keith, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We're gonna see if we can take the Saints to victory.
So for this upcoming week's matchup, what do you think is going to be like some of like the keys to this matchup? For me personally, I think the matchup that I'm most curious in is going to be Marshawn Lattimore against DK Metcalf. Marshawn Lattimore is kind of obviously the number one corner for the Saints, and I think just wherever he goes or wherever DK goes, Marshawn Lattimore will be going to.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's gonna be a big matchup. I think Gino being able to get the ball to DK or Tyler is definitely gonna be a big thing, and how our defense performs for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think when this past week, the offense definitely had a little bit of a slow start. Trying to get used to not having Russ for the first time in a decade. It's an adjustment period for everybody that is involved. But I do think as the game went on, it started to look really good. The third quarter, we looked really good, though. We started to get Alex Collins a lot more involved, and just his involvement, just kind of like I feel like eased up everything for Geno Smith to be able to have an easier time in that game.
Yeah, I think Gino played a lot better, definitely in the second half than we did in the first half. The first half we didn't really like score. We kind of were just getting stopped over and over. But I think Alex Collins played really good, and he opened up the pass game for Gino for sure.
Yeah, Alex Collins coming away from that game with a little bit of an injury, though. Not exactly sure how he's going to look for this upcoming week. I know that piece about at the end of the game, he was nursing an injury there. But what I'm super interested in is this is the first week that Rashad Penny can come back. So I'm interested to see if he actually does come back this week because that's just a player, coming out of college was super highly thought of, our first round pick back in 2018. And it has had a couple of injury problems being able to stay on the field. Had that torn ACL in his second season, so hopefully with Carson out, and if Alex Collins is out too, he's able to pick up the workload and you know be able to be our lead back for the next couple of weeks. And now, Keith, a question that I do have for you is how have you felt about like the Saints season and everything? Starting off the year super hot. Winning against the Packers. The NFC runner-up last year, 38-3. But I feel like as the weeks have gone on, it's cooled off a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm I'm a huge fan of Jameis Winston. I think he's really good.
Hmm.
If they, I think he really the only like, if you watch some of his highlights, he just has one of the best arm talents in the
Hmm.
league for sure. He just has the problem of decision making.
Hmm.
So I think if he can get past that, he can definitely lead the Saints and be really good.
Yeah, I think when talking about Jameis, in Tampa Bay, he had one of the more just memorable seasons, that 30 for 30 season where he did have 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns, though, 4 or 5K passing yards. So the talent is definitely there. No one's ever really questioned that Jameis Winston is a very talented player, a former number one overall pick in 2015. But what I'm super interested in terms of going forward, is that decision making. When you're playing for the Saints, what they've had for that last decade, essentially, you know, it really was a more of a check down offense with Drew Brees. But when you get somebody like Jameis Winston, his skill set is so good at being able to push the ball down the field. So I'm interested to see how they use him going forward, if they're going to start opening up more of the offense for him, or if they're going to try to just have him play more patiently and just try to limit the turnovers that he can have throughout a game.
Yeah, it's definitely a little different than how the Saints used to play. But I'm excited to see how when Michael Thomas comes back, how exactly they're going to be able to utilize him, since
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people think that he just catches slants, and that's why he was so good that one year that he just had so many receptions. But I'm definitely excited to see how they're gonna use him, since he's kind of like the opposite of what Jameis Winston likes to do. I feel like Jameis likes to just throw the ball deep a lot,
Yeah, I
but
think that's a really good point that
you
you're
can
bringing
see
up.
how they
Yeah, that's
use
a
him.
great point you're bringing up right now too. In terms of, as a Saints fan, you were probably thinking that, there was like a good chance that he probably could have been back this upcoming week. But then a report did come out earlier this week saying it's still probably a couple of weeks away before he even returns to being able to play at full strength and be a part of the Saints. But I think what's interesting about Michael Thomas is when he was playing with Drew Brees, he almost had to accommodate his route tree for Drew Brees. So much of what you were seeing was him going underneath. I think with Jameis Winston, you're going to see a lot more from him in terms of down the field, and I think that should be super exciting from Saints fan because right now, the Saints have a great running back in Alvin Kamara, but they don't really have a ton of weapons on the outside right now for Jameis. And I think that's a big thing that Michael Thomas is really just going to open up a lot more for that entire offense when he does come back.
Yeah, for sure. Really, all they have is they have Kamara, and they got Marquez Callaway,
Hmm.
who's showed some bright spots, but he'll definitely open up the offense quite a bit. I also think that they need to find a way to incorporate Kamara a little bit more.
Hmm.
He's extremely good, and I feel like he's not getting the ball enough.
Yeah, no, Kamara, I think, is when you talk about, talent of running backs right now. I personally was a huge CMC fan. I would probably say CMC is the best running back, but after what Derrick Henry has done over the course of the last, season and a half now, I would probably say Derrick Henry is the best running back. But I definitely think the undisputed next two best running backs in the NFL right now would be Kamara and it would be CMC, and it really just is a huge part of what CMC is able to do and Kamara in the passing game.
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely just see how Kamara and CMC are just so much better than pretty much everybody at just the receiving aspect of being a running back.
Mm-hmm.
They just dominate catching the ball compared to everybody else.
Hi, Gino right there. I thought I was going to be able to fit that one in there, but looks like the Saints are going to go up early. I think this is a really big week for the Seahawks, though. We play the Saints and then the Jaguars before our bye week. And, after the bye week is kind of that area where you're kind of starting to look, okay, this might be the time, that Russ is able to return. Hasn't been a ton in terms of the timetable he can come back. The initial reports that came out was 4 to 8 weeks. And hopefully it is that 4 week time frame because having a player like Russ is just so valuable. But I think from these next two games, if we could somehow as the Seahawks, come away with wins in these next two and go into our bye week at a 500 record, I think honestly when you lose a player like Russ, being able to get to 500 and essentially just keep your season's hope alive in terms of being able to make the playoffs and everything, you really can't ask for much more from that from Gino.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think that the Seahawks definitely, like, if you were gonna lose Russ for 4 weeks or whatever, I think this is probably the best time that you possibly could have lost him in the season. So
Hmm.
they're definitely fortunate for this being the time that he's out. But him being a guy that never gets injured, it's just so shocking that he would get injured.
To get out right there. Yeah, a little bit of an easier stretch of our schedule right now that we're going into. Not a ton of divisional games upcoming either, and those divisional games are just so important. Right now, 1-1 in the division on the year, but hopefully able to improve that as the year does end up going on. Yeah, big play right here from DK. Oh, I got super shredded right now. Something I do want to mention in terms of that was really exciting news from last week's game was what ended up happening to Darrell Taylor after the game. That was a super scary neck injury. I think a lot of people were, really worried if he'd ever be able to play again. But it does seem like he is perfectly fine. Everything I've heard is it's just neck tightness and shoulder tightness more than anything else. And I think, Darrell Taylor has really looked like one of our better defensive players this year. So to see him being fully healthy, I think is just such an amazing thing for us. Because I'm a huge Darrell Taylor fan. Obviously his rookie year was lost because of a leg injury. So this is almost his rookie year that he's in right now. And I think whenever he has been on the field, he has just looked so good.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's definitely. I've never seen anybody, just not even be able to take their helmet off. That was so scary. I can't imagine being Darrell Taylor in that moment where it's just you don't know if you're going to be able to play football again or not. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, super exciting news in terms of him being, everything checking out. I think, obviously we had a former Seahawk player, Ricardo Lockett, who did have a neck injury too and ended up having to retire because of it. And just anything like that happening is just always such a scary thing for any of the players that are involved. So seeing him be able to come back and him being able to have movement in all of his extremities and stuff like that, and then obviously be able to continue to progress and everything, I think it just was great news for everybody to hear. But Keith, I want to talk to you a little bit more, just about Madden and everything, in terms of what's been your favorite Madden experience in terms of your time that you have been competing, as you guys see Rashad Penny get out right here.
Yeah, I mean, joining, TNC was definitely one of the biggest things. I'd probably say that, my favorite Madden experience is definitely going down to the studio. I had a lot of fun doing that. Just having the experience to get flown out, so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to see how everything works down there was definitely the best part so far.
Yeah, and I think that's something we've talked about a decent amount in terms of what exactly have video games since COVID meant to you in terms of your ability to be able to connect with people and everything.
Yeah, so due to quarantine, we haven't really been able to go outside or just not necessarily go outside, but interact with people and
Mm-hmm.
hang out with your friends and stuff. So being able to get online and talk to people for however many hours a day is definitely helpful.
As we have a big third down right here. Oh, Rashad Penny not able to. I think I am going to end up going for this. We've talked about a little bit in Madden. We typically do end up going for it on fourth downs a lot more than they do in real life. But yeah, I think that's a great thing that Kdillon brings up right now. It's really just the connection that you have with all these people. And Keith, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit too about what exactly is different in terms of a live event experience. Being able to get flown out down to California and the experience you kind of have of just these other tournaments that since COVID have all had to be taking place at home.
Yeah, no. Being able to get flown out is definitely just a completely different experience. You don't even, it's so cool to meet the people that for me, I started playing I made my event when I was 16. So, I've been watching RG and all those competitive players
Mm-hmm.
play for a year or two by then. So it was just so cool to see them in person and meet them. So I think that's definitely the most different part is just being able to see the people that you interact with online, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing too, in terms of like my first event too, in terms of, you just hadn't seen so many of these people in person ever before. As you guys are going to see, Rashad Penny is able to get into the end zone here and give us a little bit of life in this game. But so many of these people, you've never seen in person or anything, and it's all just been online. This was even before COVID and everything. So making that first event just is so, so neat because, all these people that you're seeing, that you kind of almost like look up to in Madden. The person that Kdillon brought up right there was RG, and a little bit just like about RG is, so RG is like, now he's one of the head of directors or community manager, excuse me, for EA. And essentially what he was before that though is he did used to compete in Madden. Back in like the early like 2010s is really when he competed in Madden, and then he ended up taking a developer role after that in Madden, and then since then has been decided to become the community manager just for the competitive community. And he's just one of the most like upbeat guys you guys will meet. As you guys see, I thought DJ Reed might be able to get out there, but he really just is like one of the more upbeat guys in Madden. He cares so much about Madden. He's always making sure that us as competitive players are like able to voice our feedback in terms of what we think is like good and bad for the game. He's the one that's like pushing their YouTube and everything too, and trying to like grow competitive Madden even larger than what it already is right now. And I remember the first time I met him too. It was just kind of weird seeing him and talking to him, not as a in person, or not as like a commentator, and actually just having a conversation with him. And it was a super cool experience for me as well. And now, Keith, at that event too that you went to, you did actually happen to play what a lot of people would consider one of the greatest Madden players ever in Problem. So anybody that doesn't know, Problem is one of the like all-time best Madden players. He's been to multiple finals, has won multiple finals. So what was that like experience like playing Problem like at the live event in San Francisco?
Yeah, it's definitely like me being that being my first, big game where it's just there's a lot of people watching, and there's nerves and everything. I surprisingly I wasn't very nervous, even though I'm playing a player, as established as Problem was.
Mm-hmm.
But even when I played, I never really got nervous, which was nice. But he's a super cool guy. He was super nice to me, and we talked before the game, after the game. Shook each other's hands after the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely cool playing him and playing one of the bigger figures in Madden.
Yeah, no, I think that's something too. As the more I've gotten to Madden, these people are all just really good people in terms of the amount of respect that we have for each other as competitors. And I think that's what's like such just a cool thing about the whole Madden community as a whole, is that there really just is like a mutual respect amongst like everybody within the community.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if you look at like all the commentators, everybody, especially like through the people that are displaying the EA broadcast and everything like that. There's a lot of respect between everybody. We all kind of just have had the same lives to an extent over these past couple of years, just because we've had to sit inside a lot and play Madden. That's kind of our way to bypass a lot of different things. But thankfully we've had the time outside of COVID to be able to interact with them.
Yeah, and I think that's like actually a really important thing too, is when you're talking about the first like interactions, like a lot of us had with like COVID and everything, especially that early phases of COVID, you really just weren't able to, leave the house whatsoever. I remember for me, that first like month period, 2 month period, unless you needed food or you needed like an essential thing, there wasn't like any like leaving the house whatsoever. And for us, a lot of what Madden provided for us was, the ability to have these people to talk to on a constant basis. But it really, it used to just be, kind of your friends, the people that you did talk to within Madden every single day. But as time did end up going on, you really did start to talk to more and more people just within the entire Madden community, and it really did just make all of us a lot closer all together. As Gino with a laser right there to Gerald Everett. Been a lot more balanced in the second half. I think that's what the Seahawks are going to have to do for this upcoming week to have success. The Saints defense is still really, really good. You're talking about players like Cameron Jordan on that defense too, who's one of the more just established pass rushers in the league. And then you just have, so much depth, I feel like, everywhere amongst the defensive line too. And then their secondary to Marcus Williams is a great safety, as you guys saw him make a tackle in the backfield right there. He really is a great safety. A lot of people do remember him as like the player that gave up the miracle touchdown to Diggs, but he's really been a great player throughout his entire career, a lot more than just that like one moment. And now, Kdillon, I did want to ask you too, in terms of a Saints fan, what's been like your favorite moment as the Saints? For me personally, as a Seahawks fan, one of my favorite moments is personally the Beastquake. But I don't know if you have a favorite moment, maybe a little bit more positive as a Saints fan.
I think just Drew Brees retiring is definitely like so it's a sad moment, but it's also a happy moment.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see a guy go from nothing to one of the best quarterbacks ever, and it's a cool thing. I think that's definitely probably the coolest moment that I've been able to see because I wasn't super old when the Super Bowl was won, so
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really watch football at the time, but definitely Drew Brees retiring, I think, is definitely one of the biggest moments as a Saints fan.
Yeah, and then another question that somebody in chat is asking you right now, in terms of just like as a football fan in general, though, like what is like your favorite moment that you've personally seen?
Um, hmm,
Can be
that's a hard
college
one.
too if you want to include college, but is there like just like a favorite moment that you've personally had?
I don't know if it's necessarily favorite moment, but I think watching the Patriots come back from in the Super Bowl is definitely
Mm-hmm.
probably the most amazing moment
Yeah.
because that was so incredible. Like you don't get to see that really ever. Like that's just never happened, and it's incredible what Tom Brady was able to do there. So
Yeah,
yeah, probably that.
when you think about like all of the the Super Bowls prior to that, I don't think there was ever a comeback larger than I want to say 10 points in any of the other. Oh, as we got a huge defensive line swap right there. But I don't feel like there was ever a Super Bowl where a team losing more than 10 ended up coming back and winning the game. So just being able to see, what Tom Brady was able to do, that's really like, when you talk about, Brady and all the great moments he's had, that's probably honestly up there as one of the best moments he has ever had as a player. In terms of being able to get back in the game, because there's, as you guys see, Jamal Adams force a fumble and Darrell Taylor picking it up, giving us life in this game. We need to see that from Jamal this upcoming week. But yeah, going back to Brady, I think seeing that moment is just, just such a cool moment. And just for everybody that was involved in the NFL, seeing what he was able to do in that game and coming back. Oh, and as I say that, it looks like Gino is going to throw a pick here. Go get him, Gino. I was trying to go for a touchdown right there. I probably should have kept running the ball as we've had success running the ball throughout this game. You guys actually saw too there the momentum slider fully going up right there. We still have a chance though. Gino does have a chance. And I will say, that one was on me, but these last few games that we have played, I really feel like Gino has actually played really good games. And, at the end of the game, the Rams game was just super unfortunate. And then, the Saints game, or not, excuse me, not the Saints game, but the Steelers game, I really think that was just a great play by TJ Watt more than anything else. And I think the big thing for Gino is he really has played mistake-free except for those two moments. And Kdillon, I know you've probably watched a little bit of the Seahawks these past few weeks in terms of, them just being on primetime so much. Is there anything you kind of take away from watching the Seahawks that you think they should be doing more or less of?
Yeah, I think I think Alex Collins is definitely one of the most underrated backs.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's had success. He had success in Baltimore, and now he's having little shine of success here. I think getting him the ball will definitely be a big part of the offense while Gino's here. But watching those games, I feel like you said, I don't think Gino made like too many mistakes. At the end of the Rams game, that pick wasn't really his fault. It was a missed call. There's not much that he can do about that. Like, I mean, like you said, TJ Watt, obviously just a great player, made a great play. So I mean, you can't blame him for that, really.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that too. I think when you look at, how Gino has played, I said it a little bit last week too, even before the Steelers game, that, there isn't really a ton more you can even ask for from Gino. I think Gino has came in and really has done a great job for, this being his first action in the NFL for so long. You know, for me personally, as you guys see downfield right there to lock it, and I'm actually going to go for two here too. I think that, we've looked so good running the ball. I do think we might have to try to sneak in a run right here too to Rashad Penny to go up two here. There's enough time that even if we don't get it here, that we should still have a chance in this game. I think I like this play. DK, let's go. All right, up one now. The defense needs to get another stop, and I think this is what really impressed me too, Kdillon, and I think you probably watching the Seahawks the last couple of weeks have said it too. The Seahawks defense does look better. Those first couple of weeks was a little bit rough in terms of how we looked and everything, but I think against the Steelers we did look like we had turned a corner in that game in terms of how we played.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously you have that big play from Jamal Adams, which is that's rough, especially since so many people scold him already, and then to make that play, that was really bad. You gotta be able to catch that interception,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh, I just want to see Ryan
um,
Neal get a pick right there. That's a player I am hoping we see a little bit more of, is Ryan Neal. I think whenever he's been on the field, he has looked really good.
yeah, no, the when Jamal Adams was out for however long last year, you definitely saw Ryan Neal and shines of Ryan Neal. He definitely played great. Um,
What?
but yeah, like you said about the defense, I
Me.
think a lot of it is surprisingly. I feel like they play a lot better when they're not scoring, which is weird to say. I feel like it's kind of like you know, your offense plays better than your defense plays worse, like a thing kind of like that, where it's just
Mm-hmm.
your like I said, your offense is going to play better, so your defense is going to play worse, or your offense is going to play worse, so your defense is going to play
So
better.
you feel like
That
just
kind of thing.
whichever
Where
like unit is playing like a little bit worse, the other unit is always picking up like the slack of it. I think is like what you're trying to say from what you've seen of the
exactly,
Seahawks.
exactly,
Got you. Yeah.
exactly.
No, that's definitely something. I think obviously with Gino being out, or excuse me, with Russ being out these couple of few weeks, you even saw Bobby Wagner on here a couple of weeks ago, talk about it a little bit, saying that the defense does need to take this stress off of, Gino a little bit, just because it's a little bit different from having a quarterback like Russ now to somebody like Gino. As you guys see, good defense right here. We're able to get the throwaway borderline, like getting close to field goal range. Hopefully, we are able to hold here. But just talking about that a little bit more, I think the defense does know that, having a different quarterback there, you do need to just, pick up the level a little bit, because going from someone like Russ to Gino, regardless of how good Gino plays, is obviously, Russ is a Hall of Famer most likely, so he's going to just be able to do a lot more than what Gino is going to be able to do. You guys see right here, Trey Brown. Oh, I thought Trey Brown was going to be able to make a play on that. I think Kdillon is in field goal range right now. That's actually something I did want to mention is, I think one of the plays of the game last week was that tackle Trey Brown had. I was super impressed with Trey Brown whenever he did see the field. I think that, Sidney Jones, it was said at the end of the game was starting to have a little bit of concussion symptoms from the game. And I was just super impressed from Trey Brown when he was able to see the field. You know, first game as an NFL rookie. I just think he looked so good throughout the entire game. And I think that tackle at the end just really showed what like the Seahawks do look for in corners. You know, a player that, you know, is able to come down and make tackles like that. You know, he isn't the biggest corner, same with DJ Reed on the other side, but him being able to come down and make tackles is just so important. With that being said, though, we do have a game-winning kick potentially here from Kdillon. See if Will Lutz is able to knock this one through. It is an ice kick, though, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to make. And I thought it might have been going wide at first, but he is able to make it. End up losing 24-22. And Kdillon, we always end these with score predictions. Now, for me personally, I think it is going to actually be a lower scoring game. You know, you're looking at two really good defenses. I think the Seahawks defense is starting to turn a corner. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to say the score prediction before the field goal just hit. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to go 22-21 to the Seahawks. What's your score prediction for this upcoming weekend?
You know, without Russ and everything, I feel like the Saints are going to be able to stop the run with Demario Davis and Cameron Jordan, both great players.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're going to be able to stop the run, which is going to put a lot of stress on Geno. So I'm going to say 17 Saints, 13 Seahawks.
So super low scoring. We're not even going to get into the 20s in this game. That's actually probably the lowest scoring prediction that we've had so far. But I think it makes sense. Two really good defenses going at it this week. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a low scoring game. With that being said, I do appreciate you guys all for tuning in. Huge Monday night primetime game. Can't wait to see what ends up happening. Kdillon, aka Keith as well. Appreciate you for being on this show for this upcoming week. And with that being said, I will see you guys all next time.